Big morning stretch. Oh. All right, first thing you're gonna do is go ahead and print out the cuff bracelet PDF pattern pack that is associated with this project. Now, if you're a human being and you have a wrist, I'm 97.875% sure that you're gonna find a size in this packet that works for you. I did designs ranging from a 5¼ inch wrist all the way up to a 9-inch wrist. And if you're not sure what your wrist size is, stick around for the next step, where I'm going to show you how to measure for this project. And for the love of all things leather working online with PDF patterns, please, please, please make sure that your print scale is set to 100% and that auto scaling is turned off before you print the packet. Otherwise, these are going to print smaller than they should be, and you're going to send me an email saying they don't work, and I'm going to tell you to look at your print settings. I'm not mad. I'm really not. I just want you to succeed. Okay, now we have to get our wrist size for this project. If you don't already own a cloth ruler, I highly suggest you just run out to the drugstore and pick one up. They're pretty cheap, and they are the most accurate way of measuring your wrist for this project. If you really don't want to do that, you can get a shoelace or a piece of string, measure your wrists, and then measure that on a ruler. Or you can Google search a paper ruler, print that out, and use that to wrap around your wrist for a measurement. However, this is the best option. Just go get one. As far as where to measure on your wrist, I like to do about 1 inch or so down from my wrist bone. That's because the cuff bracelet is actually much wider than a regular size bracelet, and it's going to sit a little bit further down on your wrist. That way, taking kind of like a middle ground measurement is the best overall sizing I've found. So go ahead and wrap that measure around your wrist. You don't want it to be too tight or too loose, just snug to your skin. And I suggest rounding up or down to the nearest 1/4 inch, in which case I'm going to round down to 6.75 inches. And that's the number I'm going to use to correspond to the design in the packet. Okay, now that we have our wrist measurement, we can go ahead and find the corresponding cuff bracelet that'll work for our wrist. I said that mine was 6.75, so I'm going to go ahead to the second page, and you can see that since these are sized based on 1/4 inch increments, I'll have roughly 2 options for my cuff. One will be a little bit looser, and one will probably be a little bit tighter. I'm going to go with the 6.75 to 7-inch wrist size, because that one is going to give me probably a little bit more play in the fit. I don't think that a tight cuff bracelet is very comfortable, so I'd rather have a little bit of looseness in that fit. Just a heads up, these are suggested starting points. Depending on the type of leather you're using, how thick that leather is, what kind of hardware you're using, and how accurately you measured your wrist, this might be off by 1 or 2 sizes. So I highly suggest your first cuff bracelet being an experiment, and then from there you can see if you want to size up or size down, and that'll give you a more precise fit. The leather I chose for this project is an 8-ounce or 3.2 millimeter thick vegetable tan leather. There is no requirement on the type or thickness of leather that'll work for this cuff bracelet. However, keep in mind that if you're alternating between a thicker piece of leather and a thinner piece of leather, the fit of your cuff bracelet might be different. After finishing cutting out the cuff, I go ahead and grab my Dremel sander so I can straighten up these edges and give those rounded corners a nice clean profile. After sanding, I go ahead and get my edge beveler and bevel all the edges on both sides. This step will take off that sharp edge and make it a lot more comfortable to wear on your wrist. Next up, it's time to burnish. I sparingly apply some Tokonol to the edge of the cuff bracelet with this needle tip bottle. After smearing it with my finger, I go ahead and grab a wood slicker and slick it down. Next up, we have to punch all 4 holes for our hardware. To do this, I'm just using a standard rotary hole punch. Now it's time to install our hardware. The snap fasteners I decided to use for my cuff bracelet are line 20 long post solid brass snaps from Buckle Guy. All right, and that will conclude our little build along process for this cuff bracelet. As you can see, this is a pretty simple project. There's not a whole lot of steps to getting these made. I intended this to be a bit of a blank canvas. I'm expecting you guys to be tooling these, stamping them, laser engraving them, painting them, add rivets, add spikes, do all kind of stuff just to customize this and make it your own. As with all the other projects, you are free to sell these under your own brand or just make them for your friends and family. Thanks for watching.